What defines the boundary of the solar system? What do we mean when we say something has an edge, or a boundary? Some things, like a table or a soccer field, have clear edges and boundaries. Other objects, like cities and towns, have boundaries that aren't as easy to see. It is hard to say where they end and something else begins. The solar system is more like a city than a table or soccer field. You could say that the solar system extends as far as the influence of the sun. That could mean the influence of the sun's light, or the influence of the sun's gravity, or the influence of the sun's magnetic field and solar wind. Could the reach of the sun's light be a good way to decide how far the solar system extends? The light from the sun gets fainter as you move farther away, but there is no boundary where the light stops or where it suddenly gets weaker. How about gravity? Just like light, the influence of the sun's gravity extends without limit, although it gets weaker farther away from the sun. There is not a boundary at which it stops. Astronomers are still discovering objects in the outer solar system beyond Pluto. The solar wind is different from light or gravity. As it streams away from the sun, it races out toward the space between the stars. We think of this space as empty, but it contains traces of gas and dust. The solar wind blows against this material and clears out a bubble-like region in this gas. This bubble that surrounds the sun and the solar system is called the heliosphere. This is not a bubble like a soap bubble, but more like a cloud of foggy breath that you breathe into chilly winter air. Scientists believe that the closest parts of the heliosphere are 90 times farther away than the distance between the Earth and Sun. That's 3 times as far as Pluto. The heliosphere defines one type of boundary of the solar system. What happens when the solar wind and the interstellar medium collide? Even though the interstellar medium has a low density, it still has a pressure, similar to air pressure. The solar wind also has a pressure. Close to the sun, the solar wind has a large pressure, and can easily push the interstellar medium away from the sun. Further away from the sun, the pressure from the interstellar medium is strong enough to slow down and eventually stop the flow of solar wind from traveling into its surroundings. The entire area or bubble inside the boundary of the solar system is called the heliosphere. The place where the solar wind slows down and begins to interact with the interstellar medium is called the heliosheath. The heliosheath has a few parts: the termination shock, the innermost part of the boundary, the heliopause, the outermost part of the boundary, and the part in between the inner and outer boundary. Since the sun is moving relative to the interstellar medium around it, the heliosphere forms a wave or shock in the interstellar medium like a boat in the ocean. This is called the bow shock or wave.